Pie charts look easy until you find yourself reciting 12 numbers and running out of words. I'm Lee from IELTS Master. Let's turn 2 pie charts into a clean Band-Aid answer without listing every figure. Here's the task. 2 pie charts show how an average household divided its monthly spending across 6 categories in the years 2000 and 2020. 6 slices, 2 years. Your job is to compare them. At least 150 words in about 20 minutes. Analyze before you write. The data is the percentage of monthly spending across 6 categories. We've got 2 snapshots, the year 2000 and the year 2020, and both are in the past, so we'll write in the past simple. Now the big picture. Housing is the largest slice in both years, and it grows. Food drops sharply. Leisure rises, in fact it climbs to match food by 2020. So once again we can split the data in 2, the categories that went up and the categories that came down. And that's our plan, 4 paragraphs. An introduction that paraphrases the question. An overview for the big picture with no numbers. Then body 1 for the categories that rose and body 2 for the ones that fell. With pie charts, the temptation is to read out all 12 percentages. We're not going to do that. We're going to select and compare. The introduction is 1 sentence in our own words. The 2 pie charts compare the way in which an average household divided its monthly spending across 6 categories in the years 2000 and 2020. Notice I didn't copy the prompt. Show how became compare the way in which. A small change, but it shows the examiner your range from the very first line. Now the overview, the paragraph that decides your band. Big picture only and no specific figures. Overall, housing was the single largest expense in both years and took up an even greater share of the budget by 2020. The most striking changes were a sharp fall in the proportion spent on food and a similar rise in spending on leisure, which climbed to match food by the end of the period, while savings dropped markedly and transport edged down. Every key shift is there, and not one number. Now the detail. Body 1, the categories that rose. In 2000, housing accounted for 28% of monthly outgoings, and this figure climbed to 35% in 2020, leaving it comfortably the biggest cost in both years. Leisure and eating out saw the largest proportional increase, growing from 12% to 18%, while the other category remained broadly stable, inching up from 7% to 8%. Notice the proportion language accounted for the biggest cost broadly stable. Body 2, the categories that fell. The clearest decline was in food, which dropped from a quarter of all spending, 25%, to just under a fifth, 18%. Savings fell by 2/5, slipping from 10% to 6%, while the proportion devoted to transport dipped slightly from 18% to 15%. And see what we did there, a quarter, just under a fifth. Using fractions reads far more naturally than reciting every decimal. Why does this reach band 7 or 8? The tense is consistent, past simple throughout, because both years are in the past. The proportion language is varied, accounted for, took up a share, a quarter, just under a fifth. The comparisons are strong, the single largest, comfortably the biggest. The prepositions are precise, climbed to a value, grew from one figure to another. And, as always, the overview carries the big picture with no numbers at all. So the method for any comparison chart. Analyze first. 4 paragraphs. Put the big shifts in the overview with no figures. And in the body, group by direction. What rose, what fell. And use fractions and comparisons instead of listing every slice. That's how you compare without drowning in numbers. If this helped, subscribe. We're covering every Task 1 chart type, one clean example at a time. Tell me in the comments which one to do next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.